In May 2026, top-tier students around the world hit the second reading and writing module of the SAT and experienced a synchronized cognitive collapse. Where the March exam leaned heavily on complex literature and humanities, this specific test executed a hard pivot. It confronted students with an overwhelming density of data-heavy scientific literature. This sudden influx of multivariable experiments and dense jargon triggered severe time crunches. High achievers who normally finish with minutes to spare found themselves staring at the clock, forced into blind guessing on the final sequence of questions. This new module functions as a high-speed stress test, measuring your ability to isolate variables under pressure. We are going to reverse engineer 5 specific questions from that exam, the ones students deemed nightmares, to expose the mechanical hurdles hidden inside. The test makers weaponize scientific terminology to break your pacing. Surviving this format requires mastering the ability to filter out that noise. We start with the highest difficulty question on the entire exam, a microbial growth study conducted aboard the International Space Station. This matrix shows the specific challenge that froze students. They had to track 2 competing populations, fungi and bacteria, across 2 timeframes and 2 levels of relative humidity. The prompt establishes a baseline rule. Under moderate conditions, bacteria maintain dominance and suppress fungal spores through competitive inhibition. Finding the correct answer requires identifying the exact extreme condition required to break that baseline rule, the intersection of a 24-hour duration and 100% humidity. This specific quadrant represents nature's unique ecological window, where the saturated moisture allows the fungal biomass to bypass the bacterial suppression and disproportionately spike. The SAT prioritizes your capacity to locate a single data anomaly within a multivariable matrix over a general understanding of space biology. Next is the Riverbed microplastics question. The prompt details an environmental study testing how boulders and vegetation might halt the spread of pollution. The test makers buried the correct solution inside exhaustingly long, wall-of-text answer choices, despite the straightforward graphical trend. Looking at this minimalist line graph, only one mathematical data point matters. As the boulder concentration shifts from 4% to 9%, the spread of microplastics drops steeply. Students who solved this quickly didn't read the dense paragraphs. They bypassed the reading comprehension entirely, scanning the answers exclusively for the words decreased spread to match that downward slope. When faced with quantitative charts, reading every word of a lengthy answer choice consumes your remaining time. You must isolate the primary trend line first, then filter the text for matching directional language. The third hazard is the invertebrate proxy question, engineered to test your handling of cross-species biological assumptions. Researchers in the prompt tested copper toxicity on a proxy species, freshwater clams. Because the clams survived the exposure, researchers assumed the target species, local salmon, were also safe. Your task was to find the specific piece of data that invalidates that conclusion. The fatal flaw is exposed here in the biological mechanics. The clams possess a specific filtering mechanism that allows them to process the copper. The salmon entirely lack this mechanism, severing any correlation between the two. To weaken a scientific argument on the SAT, you rarely attack the data itself. You attack the validity of the proxy by proving the tested variables lack physical correlation. The fourth case study involves Non-Newtonian fluids, a study in psychological distraction. The prompt provides a set of student notes. They state that a substance called oobleck thickens when stirred, whereas yogurt thins when stirred. Believing the question required advanced science, students wasted precious time hunting through the options for complex terminology, like shear thickening or viscosity. But the prompt only asked you to emphasize a contrast. The objectively correct answer was the option that offered the simplest mechanical difference. One substance thickens, the other thins. Intimidating academic jargon is used intentionally as camouflage. Victory here requires ignoring the science entirely and hunting for the most basic logical contrast. Our final case study reveals the underlying architecture of dual-text science passages, focusing on why moths fly toward artificial lights. Text 1 presents a traditional scientific assumption that nocturnal insects are instinctively attracted to light bulbs, an observable behavior known as positive phototaxis. Text 2 outlines a different navigational mechanism. Moths actually use distant celestial lights to maintain a straight flight path, keeping the light at a constant angle on their backs. When confronted with the close proximity of an artificial light, the moth is forced into a tight spiral as it attempts to maintain that exact same geometry. Text 2 demonstrates that the attraction theory is actually a severe navigational malfunction. In dual-text science passages, the second text almost never adds to the first. It exists to deploy new mechanical data to dismantle an old assumption. You have to locate the exact mechanism of refutation. These 5 examples expose a unified testing methodology. The science passages are now precision-engineered to induce time crunches through extreme information density. Success depends on your ability to quickly identify core variables and strip away the protective layer of scientific fluff. The modern reading and writing module tests logical relationships, correlations, refutations, and variable isolation within a reading comprehension framework. Relying on your standard intuition or reading speed will fail against this mechanized format. This is why the Mind to Learn Unified Models class was developed. This monthly masterclass provides the exact blind solution rules for multiple choice questions. It teaches students of any reading level how to bypass the text barrier entirely. To beat a standardized test, you must stop reading it like a stressed student and start deconstructing it like the test maker.